Good morning, guys. It's early Friday morning. I'm gonna try to set you up here and we are gonna make bread. I've been promising you guys this bread for a little while. It's not a bread that I make very often. It's a little time consuming, so I would say for anybody who is more advanced in bread making, you are gonna love this bread. For beginners out there, don't let this bread frustrate you. It seems complicated, but it's really not, and it's delicious. I like to make this bread before the weekend because it makes the best French toast or French toast casserole if you're gonna throw it in the oven. But I'm going to be seeing my oldest son later on this evening, and he is bringing me more honey. So I get my honey locally from my son Jake. His friend is a beekeeper, and he provides me with local honey, okay, all natural honey. So he's bringing me more honey, and in return I am giving him some bread made with his honey. So he's giving this to his friend, and then I'm giving a loaf to my son. So this recipe makes 2 loaves. Both are going bye-bye. So I might have to make another loaf for this weekend. But anyway, all right, so we are gonna get started here. I am using, again, local honey. I have my honey in this little honey thing there. And then I'm also using local maple syrup. This maple syrup actually comes right from my backyard. My neighbor Billy next door, he taps from his trees. And his trees are basically in the back property behind my house. So you can't get any more local than that, right? So I make Billy this bread in exchange for maple syrup, and he loves it. So he actually just provided me with a fresh bottle. It's in my pantry. So I'm gonna have to make him some bread. Okay, so we're gonna get started here. So, all right, we're gonna start with some boiling water. One of the reasons why I wanted this electric tea kettle was exactly for this. To be able to make things easily, quickly, by just turning on my kettle, because my kettle seriously boils water in under 5 minutes. It's fantastic. Anyway, to our bowl, we're going to be adding 2.5 cups of boiling water. I'm trying not to spill it all over the place like I do. It's early. I still have butterfingers. Okay, and then to this boiling water, we are going to be adding 1 cup of rolled oats. Okay, this is important because we want to soften those oats up. I'm just going to go ahead and grab a little spatula and make sure that all of that is in the water. Okay, and this recipe also calls for maple sugar. So I make my own, of course, because I'm using local maple syrup. So what it calls for is 1/2 cup of sugar. So just throw your sugar in a little bowl, and then we are going to add to this some maple syrup. Let me grab a spoon here. I'm just going to ladle about 4 spoonfuls right into my sugar. I might add more. We'll see how this comes up. You can use brown sugar. You don't need maple sugar because we are going to be adding maple flavoring to this. But it really does make the bread taste phenomenal. All right, so there is our maple sugar. And I'm going to go ahead and add that right to my bowl. Now to this, we are also going to be adding maple flavoring. It calls for 1/2 teaspoon. I'm gonna just plop that right in the bowl. And then from my honey jar, it calls for 1 tablespoon of honey. And I'm naming this bread Michigan maple and honey oat bread because I'm using all local products. Okay, and we're just going to give this a little stir here. All right, now to this, we're also going to be adding 4 tablespoons of softened butter. Okay. We're going to give that a stir in here. We're using the boiling water, so the whole trick to this is we need this to cool down so eventually we can add our yeast to it without killing our yeast, with it being too hot, or not waking our yeast up with it being too cold. So that is the trick to this bread when you start it. You kind of have to babysit it a little bit as it cools down and keep checking the temp. I'm going to go ahead and give that a good stir and let that butter kind of melt in that bowl. I'll be adding a tablespoon of salt. I know that seems like a lot, but you need this. It's important for your yeast. Okay, not only will your bread be flavorless without salt, but the salt helps the gluten strands. So important part, don't skip out on the salt. Remember, this makes 2 loaves of bread, so really it's not that much salt. And then we are going to be adding 1 teaspoon of cinnamon to this. Pop that right in and give that a stir. And it already smells incredible. Smells like you're making breakfast. That all stirred up, your butter melted, and then just babysit this as it cools down. And when it's warm, we're looking for it to be a little warmer than a baby's bottle. When it's warm, we're going to go ahead and rock and roll and put this bread together. It's going to be fantastic. All right, so we're going to let this sit and cool, and I'll probably be back in like 5 minutes. 1 second your time. Right, guys, so this is cooled down about, I don't know. It's been about 5-10 minutes. Not really sure. But you want to cool it down to where it's the same temperature as a baby bottle. So if it's too warm to feed to a baby, it's too warm for your yeast. Your yeast is like a baby. Likes it warm, not too cold, just right. Okay, and then we are going to be adding our yeast to this next. It's going to be 1 tablespoon of instant or rapid rise yeast. I'm going to put that right in there. And I'm going to get my spatula back. I'm just going to kind of blend that in gently, just so that it can wake up and be happy. All right, and then we are going to be adding our flour. So we are going to start with 1 cup of whole wheat flour. I have King Arthur whole wheat here. Always want to level your flour out with the back of a knife so that you're not adding too much, and just level it out. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to put 1 cup of the whole wheat in here. And the rest of it is going to be all bread flour. You can use all-purpose. You just won't get that pretty lofty rise like you will with bread flour. I just like using bread flour for bread, so that's what I'm using. All right, so I'm going to add to this 2, 3. We're doing 4 cups of this. And then we're going to watch it. And we're going to add another 1/2 cup to a cup if we need it. Only if we need it. Now, my kitchen is a little cold. So, we'll see how this comes together. Colder kitchens sometimes come together better than warmer kitchens. Sometimes with the warmer kitchen, you need to add a little bit more flour because they're all about the warmth and the humidity. Okay, now we're going to start this up. We are going to stir this on a level 2. You never, ever, ever want to knead bread past a level 2 on a KitchenAid mixer. Okay, you knead bread on a level 1 or a level 2. Never go above that. 2 reasons why. Number 1, you're going to break your KitchenAid. KitchenAid themselves will tell you, if you read your instruction manual, never to knead bread over level 2. So that comes directly from KitchenAid. That's because you can fry out your motor. The kneading hook should never be used at a fast pace like that. It cannot knead bread. I've seen videos where people are kneading bread on a level 5, 6, 7, 8. They're going to destroy their machine. So first off, there's that. Second off, and probably more important if you're a bread maker, is you are ripping the strands of your gluten when you are kneading it at a fast pace. So you don't want to do that. You know, the strands of your gluten is what's going to give you that beautiful crumb on your bread. You don't want to rip that and tear that or shred that. And kneading on a high speed like that, that's what it does. There's a reason why bread is kneaded by hand. The KitchenAid is a wonderful tool, but it's got to mimic your hand. And hands don't knead bread super fast. So that is the reason. And I'm only saying that because I got a few questions to me as to why you can't knead bread higher than a level 2. And those are the 2 main reasons. You're ripping your bread, you're shredding those gluten strands, and you're going to fry out your motor. And these machines are expensive. I don't know about you, my machine ran about 600 bucks. So I don't want to replace it anytime soon. I want this to be a lifetime machine. I want to be able to pass this down to my daughter or one of my sons. So maybe my daughter-in-laws. So one day. So I want to make sure I take care of it. All right, with that little soapbox, I'm going to step on down and we are going to knead bread. That's a level 2. All right, so I'm going to get some flour in my cup, my measuring cup here. And I'm just going to have it on hand. If I need it, I might not need it. We will see how this dough comes together. What I'm looking for is a nice dough ball to form. I'm looking for it to lift off of the bottom of the bowl. I don't want my dough too dry. That will affect your crumb. I also don't want it too wet. That too will affect the rise of your bread. A lot of people wonder why their bread just doesn't get that fluffy. It's probably because the dough is too wet. And the opposite, if it's too dry, you'll get a really dense product, kind of like a brick. So it just won't be enjoyable. You're going through a lot of work to make this. So patience is a virtue when it comes to bread baking, which is probably why I love it so much, because I don't have patience, and this really teaches me patience. And look at that dough ball. Can you see that? Do you see how beautiful that is? Now that that's together like that, okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set my timer. Now you can knead this 5 to 7 minutes. I prefer to go longer. So we go 7 minutes here, and I'm going to start that. And I'm just going to let this knead. Now, at any point, if I start seeing it break down and starting to stick again, all I'm going to do is add just a little bit more flour to get it to lift off the bowl again. But I might be good. I might be good. We'll see. Yeah, do you see where it just sticks just a little bit? That's okay as long as it lifts away. If it doesn't lift away, it gets to a point where it doesn't, you can go ahead and just tap in a little bit more flour. I'm using the all-purpose just to keep it in the ball form. I just don't want it to break down and stick to the bowl. We want a clean bowl. That's the goal. When you're done kneading bread, if you did it properly, you should have a nice clean bowl. You see how it's sticking a little bit? I'm just going to tap a little bit of flour in there. I'm going to let that mix up. Just a little bit over here. You're gonna hear my mixer kind of sounds like a galloping horse. I have the Pro Line 7. It's completely normal for this motor to sound like that. Talked to KitchenAid personally about that. And because it's just sticking ever so slightly on the bottom there, I'm just tapping just a little bit of flour in there. And it's going to get to a point where it's no longer going to stick, and then it's just going to mix right up. And you see how it's lifted now off that bowl? That's beautiful. That's beautiful right there. And I think we have it. All right. So I'm going to let this knead. That's beautiful. That's exactly what you want it to look like. It's lifted off the bottom of that bowl. You see it's getting fluffy as it's getting as it's kneading. That is a beautiful dough ball right there. All right. I'm going to let this knead up for 7 minutes, and then I will be back. Okay, it's been 7 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and shut this off, and then we're going to get this out of our bowl. You want to make sure that your counter is extremely clean. Wash everything down. You want to make sure your hands are extremely clean. Let's get this out of the bowl and form it into a ball. So I'm going to just drop that down. Get our bowl out, and then we're going to take our dough hook off. Okay, so just going to pull that dough right off of there. And that goes in my sink. Doing a lot of bread, you might want to invest in just a plastic scraper. You can get them anywhere. You can even get them at Bed Bath & Beyond. Okay, so we're going to scrape that out, and I want you to see the bowl. So that's what I mean when we're talking about, you know, you want a clean bowl. That's pretty much what you want it to look like. Okay, and then here's our dough ball. So we're just going to knead this a little bit by hand. And it should be a little sticky, but it should not stick to your hands, okay? So you want it to be a little tacky, okay, but you don't want it to stick to you. If it's sticking to you and you're having to goop it off, that's not enough flour, okay? And vice versa. If it's super dry and you can't, it's not pliable, that's too much flour. I think when you make bread, I think that's the hardest part of learning how to make bread. And it took me a long time, because it really is about feel, and because I don't know anybody who bakes bread, I couldn't have anybody come over and teach me. So I just had to keep making it and reading. I pulled everything I could out of the library, reading about dough and making flour, and so that's why I make YouTube videos, guys, because I want you to know that you're not alone when it comes to doing this stuff. And you know, I'm just trying to teach you what I've learned along the way. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is I use olive oil in my bowl. You can use whatever oil you want. I like olive oil for my bread. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put the pretty side down. I'll let you take a look at that dough ball there. We're going to put the pretty side down. Then we're going to spin it in the oil. And then we're going to flip it. Okay, so that's nice and coated. Go ahead and give it another spin. You just don't want this sticking to the bowl as it rises, okay? And then you can cover it with plastic wrap. I actually bought these really nice organic flour sack towels from Grove. And so they're the perfect size for bread, so I love them. So I just cover it with one of those. Now you can leave it on your counter, you can put it under the light, you can also put it in your oven with the oven light on. It's a great place to proof bread. I am very fortunate that with my new stove, I actually have a proof option in my oven. So I can actually put my dough in here, and it actually makes it the perfect temperature to raise bread in. Now, You want to make sure that that cloth isn't touching any element, but that is the perfect place for bread. I keep the oven light on, and yeah, so I'm gonna let this rise now for an hour. And so we're gonna set the timer. We're gonna do an hour, and I'll be back when this is guys. So there is the sound of my oven. So we're gonna go ahead and shut off that timer. Take this dough out. So there's our dough. So with very clean hands, I'm gonna go ahead and deflate that. Now it does have wheat in it, so it's not gonna be as fluffy or floofy as if you just used all-purpose flour. If you just want to do all-purpose flour, especially if this is your first time making it, you can do that and omit the wheat. It's totally up to you. I've made it all different ways. So on a very clean counter, I can't stress that enough, you're going to, there we go, we are going to press all of the air out of our dough. Make it as even as you can. And there's our bread pans. So what I'd like to do, I like to make it as wide as my bread pan. Now this is gonna make 2 loaves, okay? So we're gonna cut this right down the middle. Okay, so with a bench knife, hopefully you guys can see that. Go ahead and cut that. And then what we're gonna do, so we're gonna roll this, okay? So this is about even for a loaf of bread, okay, to the pan. Okay, so you're gonna roll it and you're gonna pull it when you roll it because you want a tight crumb on this. So roll, pull, roll, pull, roll, pull, okay. All right, and then we're gonna pinch it. Hopefully you guys are seeing this. Okay, I'm gonna pinch it, pinch it, pinch it, closed. We're gonna push in the ends, pull it up, and pinch so we have a nice edge there. Same thing with this side. Poke it, pull it up. Okay. And then we're going to just kind of condense all of that together. Okay, so we got our seam nice and closed. You know, everybody forms their dough, their bread a little differently. This is just how I do it. And then I'm gonna take a pan. Now these pans, I'll lift you up a little bit. These pans I bought for 50 cents a piece at Salvation Army. Yes, I did when I first started learning how to bake bread. And I tell you, they have served me well. I love them, even to this day. I have lots of other bread pans, but I still prefer these. I just love them. And the more you bake in them, the better they get, I swear. So if you're learning how to bake bread, go to a resale shop or Salvation Army or Goodwill and get your bread pans there, because most likely they're well loved, well used, and they're the best pans. My girlfriend Nada taught me that. She taught me how to make bread, and she told me exactly where to go and get broken in pans, and she was not kidding. They're the best. So there we go. There is one loaf right there. Okay, so now we're gonna do the second loaf together. So same thing. I'm gonna kind of press it out. I want it the size of my bread pan. Okay. And then we're going to roll it up. So roll, pull, tuck. I guess you would say tuck, tuck. And you might get a regular like that, okay? That's what is so important with kind of pressing it out, because it should smooth all of that out for you. Okay, we're gonna push, poke it in, pull it up, get a nice seam, roll it, press it out. Okay, roll and press it out. I'm a little picky when it comes to my bread. So you do you. The more you make bread, the more you'll get the feel or what you like and what works best for you. Okay. And when I've got the bottom looking pretty the way I like it, we will get it in the pan. So we're going to go ahead, spray this pan. Now I'm using olive oil spray. You use whatever you like. Some people like to use lard, butter, whatever you like. I just prefer olive oil when it comes to my bread. Okay, and I'm going to press that. In the pan. All right, so there we go. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to spray the top with the olive oil. Okay, and then I'm going to put this back in my oven with my cloth over it. Okay, so this is going to go back in the oven just like that, and it's going to rise for another hour. Okay, it's a kind of a slow rise bread. And yeah, so after an hour, I will bring you back, and then we will preheat our oven, and then we will also make these really pretty with a nice oat topping, if you will. So I'll bring you back in an hour. Okay, an hour is up. We're going to shut the timer off. I'm going to get this bread out. They look beautiful. Now, I'm going to go ahead and preheat my oven to 350 degrees. I am using convection bake on my oven. So we're going to preheat that, and then I'm also going to be, now you don't have to do this part, but it is something that I enjoy doing because, you know, we eat with our eyes first. So if you can make something pretty, make something pretty. So let me see if I can scooch it in, get you a little higher here. Okay, so I am using an egg wash. That's 1 egg beaten with a little bit of water. And I am just going to brush my bread with an egg wash. Now, if you don't want to use egg, you can do warm water and a little sugar. Dissolve the sugar in some warm water and then use that. You don't want the water too warm, but, you know, not hot. Just warm enough to dissolve the sugar, and you can use sugar water. Both will work beautifully. So after you do the egg wash, I'm going to go back into my oats, old-fashioned oats, and I'm going to sprinkle the top of my bread with the oats. And I go ahead and I kind of just crumple it in my hands so that, you know, you get little bits and pieces. And depending on how much you want on there is up to you. I just think this is just such a pretty touch for the top of your bread. So, again, you don't have to do this, but especially if you're giving it away as a gift, this is a nice touch. And I tell you, a loaf of this bread using local honey and local maple syrup and a jar of homemade jam is a beautiful gift to give somebody for the holidays. It is a work of love, and because not many people make jam jelly or homemade bread, it is usually a gift that is really appreciated. So we're gonna go ahead and put some oats on this. It is Fun Friday in my house for homeschool, so we are playing a bunch of games today. So this is a perfect day for me to get some bread baking done because we actually play games here in the kitchen. So, all right, there we have it. So as my oven preheats to 350 degrees, this is going to bake 35 to 40 minutes. Until it's golden brown. You should hear, if you tap on it, you'll hear it like a hollow sound. That's how you know it's done. I mean, you could use thermometers and all that, but you know, I ain't fancy like that. So once my oven is preheated, I will put this in, bake it for 35 to 40 minutes, and when I pull it out of the oven, I will show you guys what it looks like. A little trick on the bottom of your oven, you can throw some ice for some steam. Makes a good crust. Here we go. Time is up. Now I baked mine for 40 minutes on convection bake. And they are perfect. So here is one. And there is two. And hopefully you guys can see that. Alright, so let's turn off the oven. And there is our bread. So I am going to get out my racks and turn these out onto racks so that they can cool. So all right, I'll be right back. There they are. Oh, so pretty, and my house smells amazing. This bread is really nice when you bake it because you get the scent of the maple along with some of the honey, the sweetness of the honey with the smell, of course, of baking bread. So good. Okay, so now I'm going to let this cool. Now it's almost 1 o'clock. I'm going to let this cool for an hour and hopefully come back and at least slice into one of the loaves. So you guys can take a look at what it looks like inside. You can take a look at the crumb. You never, ever want to cut into or slice into bread when it's hot because you will lose all of the moisture inside your bread. So if you cut into bread when it is still warm, all of that moisture will escape it and you'll end up with really dry bread and you won't be happy. So patience is a virtue when it comes to bread. So just push it off to the side. Let it cool, and then when it's cool, I will come back. I will cut into it, slice into it, and you guys can take a look. But isn't it pretty? Such a pretty loaf of bread. Before I forget, this bread is inspired by my favorite bread baking book. This is the King Arthur Flour Baker's Companion. This is the Vermont Oatmeal Maple Honey Bread. You can find it on page 203 of your book. Again, feel free to play around with it, add, subtract, switch the flours up, play with it. That's what I like to do. But if you're looking for this recipe and the exact way to do it, you can find it in this book. It's a must-have. I loaned this out of the library, out of my library for over a year before I decided, you know what, I need to buy this book. So this is one of my favorite books for baking bread. So if you're into bread, I highly recommend it. I will try to find a link for it and leave it down below if I can find one on Amazon for you. But yeah, definitely my favorite. Guys, we're gonna slice into the bread now. Ready to see some pretty crumb? It should be pretty, fingers crossed. This is like one of the exciting parts of bread baking. Just look pretty inside or not. All right, let's cut into it. There we go. There we go. Look at that crumb. Success. Right? Right? Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm so excited. I hope you guys try this. If you do, and if you make videos, make me a video reply. Leave the link down below, and then I'll share you on my Facebook page. I will share your video if you make me a video reply. I love video replies. Look at that. So, there you have it. Some of you asked me if I partake in bread, if I eat bread on my wellness journey, and I say, yes, I do. Yes, I do. I just do it in moderation. I really feel like if you deprive yourself and you restrict yourself too much, you feel like you're on a diet and you'll yo-yo, you'll binge, you'll fall off the wagon. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in living a really healthy, long life for my babies. And so this has got to be doable, and it's got to be logical, and it's got to be enjoyable. So that means I can have a slice of bread here and there. I just can't eat half the loaf. You know what I'm saying? Just like pizza. I ate pizza the other night. I had one slice with a nice healthy salad instead of eating 2 slices and some breadsticks, you know? So it's just in moderation, just making healthier, better choices. And I'm definitely gonna have a slice of bread. Maybe, maybe not, but probably. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, share me, spread the love, share the love, get more people motivated to bake bread because it is amazing. Remember, if you make a video reply, link it down below in the comment section and I will share you over on my Facebook page. All right, guys, I'll see you soon. Bye.